victory's already won. Didn't have you.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM, W300EB, Macon, and WDDO 980 AM, Perry, Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett, Westbrook, and Mr. DUMAS.
And good evening and welcome to another segment of the NAACP Truth Show. I'm Willie Dumas, your host, along with President Gwen Westbrooks. And
hello,
we're
everyone.
Happy to join you. So glad y'all could join us this evening.
Yes.
We've got a lot to talk about, of course.
We have. We missed a couple weeks and we got a lot to talk about. We want you all to chime in. We want you all to respond. We're dealing with some things in our community that is just unreal.
Exactly.
We've, of course, the crime. We're in our 50th homicide. And so,
It just goes on and on. It doesn't seem to stop.
And I'm just so concerned. A couple years back, Mr. Dumas, we talked about, had a press conference at City Hall, at our government center, because the NAACP was concerned because, at that time we had a sitting mayor that you didn't hear him express any type of concerns about the crime in our community, and so, you and I and other people, we start having, a meeting every month, not to just have a meeting, but have some type of plan of action behind it. We got out in the community. We start walking in different communities and talking to the people in the community to try to figure out what
Was causing all this.
Yeah, and so,
Right.
most of the people were talking about our young folks. That was one of the focus that people were mostly focusing on, a lot of our young people. So, I'm a victim myself. I had a brother that was killed at 19 years old. Was at a girl's house, and her ex-boyfriend came over and shot and killed him at 19. I raised him after my mom died, so it was just like a son to me. So,
Wow.
I struggle with that. He this year on the 20th is his birthday this month,
Wow.
and so actually next year, 2023, it will be 20 years. And the young man that killed him, he was released from jail this year.
Wow.
And so, we just got to. We're not thinking. I'm hearing different things. People are saying that our young folks, they're high when they're doing all this crime, and they, different things like that. And that may be the case a lot of times. And when it happened, then they don't even remember what happened. Or and people can, we do know a lot. Even though this, not making excuses for them, because there's no excuse, or
Exactly.
no excuse at all. But we got these young folks dealing with mental health. Mental illness hadn't been diagnosed, hadn't been treated. And, even with that said, they don't know how to handle conflict.
Right. And there have been a couple of groups that have put some forums together to deal with conflict resolution. I know our coroner, Leon Jones, has been spearheading some of those meetings. They had one on the east side about a month ago, and now they have one they've started on the west side that'll start this weekend, I understand.
But if the people, I'm just so concerned, Mr. Dumas, because if the people that need to be there is not at the table, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm saying. We having meetings, but the people that's doing this shooting and killing are not at the table.
Right. I think this particular group is looking more on the preventive side for future because I think they're involving some of the youth in their meetings, like from age, let's see, in this group from age 12 to 25. They're going to have youth there, and they're going to have some type of training.
We got to.
And I think that's probably going to be the best way, because the adults that are committing these crimes, I don't see any deterrent to really get them to stop doing what they're doing.
And people may get mad with me, Mr. Dumas. You know, I can remember a long time ago when it was one person doing the killing. It was
Right.
one individual doing the killing. And I think the mayor then was Ronnie Thompson. He shut the city down. He said, you know, nobody out. He put a curfew in place. Nobody out this time. You know, he brought the National Guard in.
Yeah.
I'm saying
It is a major crisis.
it is. And then we got a shortage of
police officers.
Yeah. I'm saying, you know, you don't want to get to that point, but what do you do? Because it's shooting. I'm saying you don't want to close people businesses because they got to make a living, but you know, we shouldn't have to. I live in fear every day. I'm saying because
you don't know what's going to happen.
You're sitting in your home and you may get shot just sitting in your home. It's shooting all the time. You don't know where the shooting coming from. You get shot. I just think about our assistant treasurer, Mr. Peter Taylor, sitting in his home and in stray bullets come through his house and shot and killed him. They hadn't found out who did that yet. It's unreal. And so people, you know, I don't want to give the police an excuse to stop our young folks and harassing our young people, but something else is going to have to happen. I know we having this, but we September and we're in our 50th homicide, and it's just like it's getting worse. And you know, we have a youth chapter. We, you know, anything that we can do to help. You know, the NAACP definitely don't want to see somebody bring the National Guard in and tell people they can't walk the streets, and we don't want to see that. But what do you do? Because it seems like they're not fearing anything.
No, and you also got some repeated crimes. I know I think it's the Chevron station off of Dimmick Highway.
Yeah,
they had another shooting there recently, and they had just had a shooting about a month ago. Mm-hmm. And so these areas, you know, that are being, you know, that you're having a lot of these shootings, or areas that people are continuing to do what they've done. You know, it hasn't been a deterrent. And so it's just, you know, it makes
you just got people just walking up. You know, there was a shooting over here, one of our right next to one of our members' home. Just, you know, you just walk up and just shoot somebody in the broad daylight. Wow. Like it's nothing. It's not making sense. And we taking the law into our own hands, and we're just doing things it's just not making sense. I just, you know, we definitely need prayer. I really think that we need to be having a citywide prayer every week or something. But we're so divided, Mr. Dumas. You know, our leaders we're divided, and people sense that. You know, we got people, leaders doing this. They got lead over here doing that, and until we could come together collectively to put our heads together, and put our expertise and the knowledge and all of that together and group it as one, I think that we're gonna continue to see.
Right, and it's also, you know, which communities, you know, are experiencing the most violence. We do note that you know, violence in any segment of the community you know, affects the entire community, and I think people are beginning to see that now.
Yeah, and let me tell you this, it's just unreal. We're gonna talk a little bit about it. But like you said, you got the violence now is hitting all different sides of town. You just don't hear about it as much.
Right.
And the media is plays a part in that. They cover what they want to cover. In certain sides of town, they make it seem like crime is, well, not make it seem like, but everything that happens in this particular part of town is always on television. But then there's crime other places
That's never
is happening.
televised.
Especially a lot of auto theft, break-ins, home invasions. You see a lot of that in certain time, but you never hear about it.
Right.
You never. But when the news come in or something happen, the media have access to pull these police reports and stuff when they come in, so they choose to, um, um, air what they want to air. Now, I was just on the property a few minutes ago of the housing authority property. They had taken some paperwork for a tenant, dropped it in the box, and they are experiencing so much crime.
Wow.
And I was just at Tender Fields, and one of the ladies was there and gave me message that she wanted to talk to me because her car was broken in. Well, that's something that's. And I asked, I said, well, did she call the police? Because that's what she need to do. If somebody broke in her car, you got to call the police, because what you got to do is, it's happening a lot. They've had drive-by shootings,
Wow.
in Tender Fields. Had last this not this past Friday, but the Friday before, weekend before, they had something like, we don't know whether they were the National Guard. I mean, we don't not the National Guard. We don't know whether they was the K-9 unit. We didn't know. They didn't know whether or not it was the drug task force. They didn't know. The tenants didn't know who it was. Nobody gave them any warning, but they were guys with their face covered up out there on the property, like
Wow.
in the like she said, they were saying they had like a list of looked like a list of people who were supposed to be living out there, and they were stopping people, asking them, where you live and different things like that. But they were not aware that they were supposed to be out there, so they were terrified because they was thought, they was like, it's going to be a shootout, because whoever, if they're looking for somebody and they come in and they start shooting, quite natural, they're going to retaliate, or they're going to defend themselves, because you got somebody out there with mask on, and
Right.
and nobody knows who they are. And so, but it's gotten to that point. We're
Wow.
talking about Tender Fields that's just, it's basically just like the old Tender Heights.
Right.
And
Wow.
so, they're saying, I pulled the police reports, drive-by shootings, a lot of car break-ins, people, just shooting people, car windows out, different things, shooting people cars up, people houses. It's just that bad out there, and people are moving. And so, they were, made contact with me, and they was like, what can we do? Because they were saying that they saw something on television where, something happened to somebody, and they was like, if it happened again, I just know that when the drive-by shooting happened, we're hitting the floor, because we don't know where the bullets are coming. So they're concerned what they can do, because they're in fear. They can't even sleep at night. People are saying they can't even sleep at night. Because of, they don't know what's going to happen. It's just as bad, in Bartlett Crossing, the same
Wow.
thing in these housing authority properties. But you never hear anything about it on the news. The media does not cover it, and so everybody think it's safe to stay out there,
Wow.
because the media didn't. They're going to protect. It seems like to me that they're protecting the housing authority.
Right. They don't want that bad press
Right,
to
but
go
at
out.
the same time, you're putting out
A lot of negative information in
in
other
other
parts
other
of the
parts of time, when
of
it's
town.
it's very dangerous out there at this point. And so it's really sad that our media, um they tends to uh, air information that they want to air to protect certain people, certain companies, and that's not what we should be. We should be uh, putting the information out there. We should be putting the truth out there.
Absolutely. Because people have a false sense of security living in
Right.
these areas, because a lot of folks come here from out of town. They don't know the area. And so if they're looking for a place to stay, the rent may be cheaper in the area, but, they may not know what goes along with that,
Right. Right. And then you got people who are coming in, they moving right back out because but just like in Bartlett Crossing, it's shooting. We got a tenant over there for to be evicted because the landlord, for some reason, think that the shooting that is going on is have something to do with her. And I told her, I said, man, she'll be able to prove that this shooting has nothing to do with her. You got shootings,
They're random.
they random. And so just because her house has been hit twice, but you got other houses around her that's been hit also.
Wow.
So and you have the shooter, what is it called? The thing that
Yeah, that finds there's some
it
shooting in the
tells you
area.
that the shooting started on another street, so it ended up there. But it's just Butler Crossing is another area that I think that those apartments should have never been built there because it's in an area that's not safe.
High crime.
Yeah, high crime rate.
And another example of, what you were talking about with the media, our neighboring city of Warner Robins, for a long time, it seems that Warner Robins didn't have any crime.
Right.
You never really heard anything negative, televised. But
Right.
now,
Well,
all
they
of a
say it's the
sudden,
people from Macon coming down there, but it's not. That's not the case. But
right,
that's
right,
not the case. But it's just not one solution. You can't blame it on the pastors. You can't blame it on the mayor. You can't blame it on the sheriff. You can't blame it on the church. You can't. I'm saying, I just know that we need to come together collectively to try to figure out. I just know at one point I had suggested a curfew, which we already have an ordinance in place. And so, with that being said, the district attorney at that time was David Cook. We had the solicitor office with state court. And so, I even, had talked to Sheriff Davis about it one time. And he was saying that, they've tried that before because it's an ordinance already in place. I think it's age 16. They have to be in before 12 o'clock or something like that. It's a certain time they have to be in. They can't be out between those hours. And so, and I think it's from 12 to 6 or something like that. But he was saying, they tried that. They just ended up like something like with a daycare or something you got. But back then, people didn't have cell phones.
right.
And so my suggestion was, this was my suggestion, because we, a lot of these shootings and things like that, it ranges from a different age group. But then you got a lot of kids that are 16 and stuff. People don't realize they making fake IDs, getting
Right.
into the clubs and different things like that. They making fake IDs. And so that's what I recommended. But they were, their concern was that it may be violating the constitutional the Constitution as far as But the thing about it is, Mr. Dumas, you are only at a legal age to go to prison. You're not an adult until you're 18 years old. At 17, you're not adult,
Right.
but you can be tried as an
As
adult,
an adult.
if you
Exactly.
commit a crime. So that was my recommendation, to try to do the curfew, and then if these kids are out, find the parents. And they some people had an issue with that, finding the parents. But I do have sense enough to know that we have parents that are working, trying to make a living for the kids. Some parents work 2 jobs.
And the kids are probably sneaking out.
And I do know that. But at the same time, we gotta take control of our children.
Absolutely.
We gotta take control of our children. We should know where our children are. If we at work, we should know whether or not they're at home. And if they're not at home, if you're giving them permission to go to a friend's house, that's where you expect for them to be. I'm not saying being harsh, but I'm saying maybe, like I was saying, a fine. Or if they're out doing that time for the first time, give them a warning. The second time, give them a fine. Or give them a fine the second time. If they having to keep paying fines, then you know maybe they'll know where their children are. You got
Right.
some parents that don't work.
Right.
Some parents that don't work, but something got to happen because, like I say, at 16 and 17 is starting there, and then when they 18 and 19 years old, that's when they shooting and killing, and they got these guns, and we know a lot of times where my neighbor was telling me this morning that they were her camera showed some guys pulling on my car doors this morning about 1 o'clock, and it wasn't just my they didn't just come in my yard. They were in different neighbors' yard, but they looking for guns.
Wow.
When they're doing that, they're looking for guns because people do leave guns in their car.
Right.
And I'm just encouraging, the community. One way you can help, we got to stop leaving guns in our vehicles because that's where they're targeting. They're breaking into cars, and it's everywhere because they think people are keeping, guns in their cars.
Wow.
We can help in a way that we really don't realize that we can help.
Right. And I noticed I believe it was in Baldwin County, they were doing a gun buyback program. And I just wondered, how effective would a program like that
We
be?
had that here.
Right. Right. I remember.
Yeah, we had that here. And, you know, I just don't know how effective it would be
Right.
unless you
'Cause-
just got somebody willing to just change. You actually gotta probably, start in the schools talking, and a lot of kids that got to going, they don't even probably go to school.
right.
They're probably not even in school sad to say, but you got a lot of kids that are in school and they're just on the down low with it. They have weapons and that's why I say parents, I'm saying you got some parents don't go in their kids' room. You need to be checking.
Yeah. Because right now, the sports in the high school sports have started up.
Mm-hmm.
I know we had a incident, I believe it was in Johnson County. It was a shooting. Somebody was shooting and they weren't even in the stadium. I think outside of the stadium, but
Mm-hmm.
people were running, those kinds of things. I think at sporting events now, particular high school
They're
forces.
checking for weapons and
Right.
yeah, and you probably need to because you just don't know. People are bringing guns into the games, and they need to have a sign up there saying no weapon. So if somebody come in that has one, then they can be charged.
Exactly.
So it's just so unreal how the crime has just plagued our community. You're fearful to even ride down the street in fear that you may get shot riding down the street.
Yeah, it's gotten just that bad. I know, particularly with downtown bustling, it's a bustling place now. A lot of
Right.
people, going to restaurants and, nightclubs and bars and those kinds of things. And you have a lot of people congregated. And if somebody just drives through, I mean, that could be just terrifying, shooting, people on the
Yeah.
street.
But you got some people that are in positions that are part of the problem. You got people that have connection with some of these folks and they don't do anything to try to, because they got to stay in their good
Standing.
standing. And, I think that, you got to get the key people. That's why I say with the NAACP, we don't want perfect people, just perfect people in the organization. Nobody's perfect, but if you've been convicted, you shouldn't be on the executive committee of NAACP. Yes, you do. Those are people that we need. We need somebody who know the streets,
Right.
who's been in the street. We need you on our executive committee because we feel that you will help us be able to reach those individuals that we need to reach. You exactly who we need.
Yeah, we had a gentleman on the show some weeks ago, and he was heading up one of the organizations that's dealing with violence,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them were, ex-gang members,
Mm-hmm.
have been incarcerated for different drug crimes and these kinds of things. They understand the streets, and I think those are some of the more effective programs because they're able to connect
Right,
with the
connect.
people. Yeah,
I'm just telling you, if you walk out in the community with a shirt and tie on, it is not gonna happen. You gotta dress down. I'm saying you gotta meet these folks where they are. Um, I just wish that uh, we had people in this organization that a lot of folks don't even know. What young people are not even familiar with the NACP. I was talking to a young lady last week, and I told her, I said, when we finish talking, I want you to when we leave, get on your computer and pull us up and read for yourself. Tell you who we are, because she basically stopped us. But anyway, um, folks, we just got to get out and vote too. We got to get out. A lot of this, everything surrounding uh, that we're dealing with economically has a lot to do with vote. What's coming up in our election with voting.
right. And a lot of it bears fruit to a lot of the laws that have been put in
Right,
place.
right.
Now, everybody can carry a weapon, if you
It
don't have a felony. And
seems like it ain't gotten worse since they passed it. I don't know.
right, because now, nobody's subjective to checking someone. Everybody has a gun. So,
Yeah,
you know,
you
you
know,
don't know
you
the
you
good guys from the bad guys.
right. You don't know who's supposed to have a gun and who's not supposed to have a
Right.
gun. So, you can't even ask people if they have a permit to tow the gun. So, what?
Because a lot of times we used to say, well, you see something, say something. But
Yeah, you
now
can't say
you
you.
can't say anything because you don't really know what you see. All you see someone with a weapon,
Weapon.
and they may come into Walmart or Kroger or whatever.
I was in Walmart a couple of weeks ago, and it was during the time that the man that got shot and killed down there in Walmart. And so, was sitting in my car, and it was a guy out in the front. The sheriff was out there, and he was trying to make him leave the property, and he was just rebellion. And I sat right there in my car. I was like, I probably just need to go on and crank up and just go ahead on and leave, because I don't know if they're gonna start shooting or what. But it's just that you don't know people with mental health. It seems like to me that what was going on at that time. Um, but like I said, you just got people that you don't know the circumstances of what's going on with people. And
And
I
it's hard
just,
to guard yourself. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to really um, tell the situation, where it could go. Used to be, if you saw something unusual, it
hmm
kind of stood out like a sore thumb. But
hmm
now, most circumstances they don't seem unusual. They're just, everybody's caring, everybody's doing what they
yeah.
want to do.
So we do have an election coming up in November, and this is a critical
Critical election.
election. And I'm just hoping that you all don't sit out on this election. We're talking about health care. We're talking about your voting rights. A lot of us still sitting saying that you don't want to vote, but every time you turn around, uh, I see more and more people don't even understand. They don't know the basics. Don't understand a lot of things that and we're gonna talk about that in a few minutes. But people, we got to get out and vote. We got to. I'm saying we and I'm not being racist, but it is not a racist statement. But people of color, we spend a lot of money,
Right.
and we can basically get a lot of things that we want if we stick together on things that matter. I was in the store this past weekend in the 98-cent store, and I thought they were giving away something. I thought they were giving away something. People, females coming in
You
and
have
out of
been
there.
listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett Westbrook and Mr. Dumas. Come join us next Monday at 4 o'clock p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants.
Because he asked me when I came. Okay, we're back on.
Okay.
Okay, we're back on. Uh,
Okay.
we're used to the 30-minute break, but we're back on. And so we're talking about crime and some of the things that are happening right here in our community, some of the solutions. And we'd love to hear from you out there. You can give us a call at 478-250-1444. Give us a call, and so we can talk about your experiences with violence here in the city of Macon or in your community if you live in some of the neighboring counties here in Macon. So we're going to continue our discussion. We were talking
About voting,
about
making
voting.
sure that we get out and vote. We got early voting that's going to be coming up in October. And Maria, can you give us the dates on those? I'm seeing that you're listening. Hopefully, you're still here. Um, give us the dates. I think it's
Is it the 8th?
October the 17th. I think through the 4th. I think.
Oh, okay.
Want to make sure. But we have some time. I know it's in the October, and I think it's through November the 4th. But we got to make sure that we get out and vote. Early voting. And then on November the 8th, we need to make sure that we get out and vote. We got some things, planned that we plan on doing to try to get people out to vote. I'm saying is no, I hear people, complain all the time, and there's no point in
Right.
complaining with me if you're not going to get out and vote. I can't, I don't judge people and criticize people if they don't vote, but just you can't complain to me. I'm saying that there's no point of complaining if you can do something about it and you choose not to do, not to, because that's where our strength and our power is in voting.
Exactly. And either, person going to be a part of the problem or part of the solution. And so,
Right. So, we gotta, voting October 17th through November 4th. That's what she said. I had it right. October the 17th through November 4th.
and
So that's early voting. And at that time, you need to make sure you vote at the early voting locations, which is the Elaine Lucas Center and at the Board of Elections.
Connecting the community through gospel.
At the Board of Elections. And on November the 8th, you would need to go to your polling place. Remember, and you have time to check. You can call our office, 478-745-9944. If you're not sure where you're supposed to be voting, you can contact our office and we'll be glad to look up your voting location so you won't get to the wrong voting location on November the 8th.
right.
And then you walk in there at 6:40, 6:50, and then you find out you're in the wrong place and you don't have time to get to because they're not doing provisional ballots.
One of the things somebody asked me about, maybe you can answer this question as it relates to voting. If a person is having an issue getting off from their place of employment to vote, what can they do in that? type situation?
Well, they need to call our office because they're supposed to allow them a certain time to be able to get out and vote. Now I know with us with the state, it just depends on what time you have to be to work, and what time you get off. Like for example, my work time is from 8:30 to 5, so I'm allow additional time to because depending on when the polls open, whether or not you actually have time to get to the polls to vote. So they need to contact our office because they will have some Saturday voting also. But you do have jobs that do not allow their employees to get off and vote to
Right.
vote.
And so we would encourage voters to take the opportunity to either vote early, vote absentee, or some other means if they feel they've had issues in the past
Yeah,
of getting off to
because
vote.
we're not going to make that an excuse.
Right, exactly.
Because the polls didn't close at 7 o'clock. I don't know what time that these the person that had the question what time they're. I'm just hoping that they're not working from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, and then they're working 7 days a week. I'm just hoping that that's not the case. And so there will be some Saturday voting, and we will have early voting, and we will have the election day. So just like I say, make sure you go to the right polling place when you on November the 8th. And if you have any questions, if you have any doubt where you're supposed to be voting, you can contact our office. We'll be glad to look it up to tell you exactly where you need to be voting at. Or you can go to my voters page and put your name and I think it's your date of birth thing, and it'll pull your precinct and actually allow you to print your precinct card out also.
And we do know that during the summer, summer months, there are a lot of weddings that take place, particularly in June, May and June. And these newlyweds need to make certain that they get their information correct on their IDs,
Right,
particularly if they're moving to a new address or a
right,
new home or something of that nature, that they don't run into the issue of having
right,
their identification not to match up,
right,
because we have had issues with that.
right.
A lot of people.
So I want to talk a little bit, Mr. Jones, about evictions. I have been so bogged down
Wow.
with evictions, and it's just unreal. The way the property managers are handling a lot of these evictions. You got some property managers that are working with
The
the
tenants.
tenants. You have life changing events, but I just encourage any tenant, if you have a change of income, if you have a change or anything that affects your ability to pay your rent, you need to communicate with your landlord. I would suggest that you sit down and talk with them at the same time, follow up. And I'm not giving legal advice. It's just common sense advice.
Exactly.
If you have issues with your landlord, or like I said, it comes a time that there's an inability to pay, you need to sit down and have a conversation with your landlord. Then I will follow up with a letter per our conversation. We got to educate our people on what
Proper.
they need to do, the proper procedures, the proper way to do things, because a lot of things that are being done is just common sense. And so last week, the NACP's been working with some tenants at Bartlett Crossing and very heavily Bartlett Crossing and Tender Fields, which are housing authorities' properties. They're privately owned by someone else, but the housing authority is the one that's managing the property. But we got some very serious issues, and uh, for some reason, nobody's want to look at it. Nobody wants to acknowledge what's going on, and I don't know if they're in denial or they're just. But when you have tenants that says that when you have tenants that saying, I'm being called to the office and saying that I owe money that I know I don't owe, but They can't find it, and they asked me to sign something to repay it, and if we find it, we'll credit you the money back. And they
Wow.
never find it. That's happening too much. It's something not right.
Right.
It's something not right. I was on the property last week because we had a news conference. Had a story where a young lady, and she signed a complaint with us, and you know, at the same time she filed a complaint with us. You got an eviction notice. You didn't reach out to say, you know, call the NAACP and say, I got an eviction. I got to go to court. Stop going to court by yourself. There's Georgia Legal Services
Right.
available there for the tenants. These people are showing up to court by themselves, and God knows what's happening in our court system. With this young lady, she had been was given told that they were not going to renew her lease because her income had decreased, and so they have a set where you have to um, 3 times your income in order to rent.
To qualify for it.
Yeah. So when she told her that, she said, "Well, I got to move." So she didn't pay her rent for the month of June. She told this in May. She didn't pay her rent for the month of June because she knew she had to move. So when July came, she was still there. Property manager called in the office and they signed a lease with her. Signed the lease. Well, let me go back. They filed the eviction on June 28th because they say that they were not going to renew her lease. And so she didn't pay her rent. But as I explained to her, not giving her legal advice, but she didn't know that you can't just tell me that I'm not going to renew my lease. You got to put it in writing. They got to give you a 90-day notice that they're not going to renew your lease. Well, July came. They called in the office and they signed a lease with her and told us that we're going to make you an appointment to go sign up for Georgia Relief because you just behind 1 month. 1 month behind in your rent. So they filed eviction, and so they told her, we're going to make you an appointment and apply for Georgia Rent Assistance. And that's what they did. She went over, did Georgia Rent Assistance, but at the housing authority did not stop the eviction. They allowed the eviction to go forward. And so my concern was with the judge when I spoke with the judge, because there was an agreement that's supposed to be made between the tenant and the courts that she was going to go in and pay a certain amount of money to keep from being evicted. If she paid that money, then she wouldn't have to be evicted. But when she got the phone call and said, come sign your lease, sign up for the Georgia Rent Assistance, she didn't pay the money to the courts because she was understanding that Georgia Rent Assistance, they were going to wait till the Georgia Rent Assistance pay the rent, which was at that point 2 months rent. Now, mind me that we have worked with 2 tenants in this same property that owe thousands,
Wow.
4-5 thousands of dollars
And this
in the
was
same situation, and they waited for Georgia Rent Assistance to pay. Now, mind me, this young lady has a special needs child who's totally incapacitated, can't do anything for himself. He has to have a caregiver. And she was fearful. She started moving her stuff out anyway because she didn't want them to put her stuff out just in case. Because we thought the housing authority was not going to evict her after we was able to, I was able to show them where, look, you all have been, they even had this young lady paying $105 extra every month on top of her rent because
wow.
they lost her money order. She said they lost the money order. So they called her and say, well, look, we can't find your money. from September. We can't find your rent from last September. So we want you to repay it. If we find the money, we'll credit your account. But at the meantime, we need for you to sign an agreement to pay it back. And that's what she was paying, an extra $105 on top of her rent. Come back. Evidently, something happened because she then had a $5 credit. They actually started overcharging her from day one when she moved in, because she moved in on August 11th, she signed her lease on July 30th of 2021. She moved in August 11th. She was charged full month rent for July. You can't do that. She didn't move in. She didn't sign a lease until the 30th. She only supposed to have been charged a 1 day rent. So, make a long story short, they evicted her. And I got a phone call and say the sheriff was out there. By the time I got there, the sheriff had gone. Whatever little stuff that was in there, what I could see was like feeding tubes. The child have to have some type of suction. A lot of that was put out with whatever he uses to something similar to like a feeding tube or something like that. But I was just, in speaking with the judge, she didn't even have any appeal process because she never went to court. And because they're saying that she defaulted on paying the money that she's supposed to pay. But this is the thing that I'm having a concern with. The property manager, and just like I explained to the judge, somebody going to have to be held accountable for these tenants being evicted that are the property managers evicting them, signing them up for the Georgia Rent Assistance to get the money, because the only way you can get money from the Georgia Rent Assistance, you have to have a current lease. So you're signing a current lease with these tenants. The courts are allowing
to do it.
to do it, because when I spoke with the judge told me that they normally check to see if they've applied for Georgia Rent Assistance. You couldn't have, because if they would have saw that she had applied for Georgia Rent Assistance. So now she's evicted. You've gotten her to sign a current lease, and then now you're going to get paid for the Georgia Rent Assistance. You can't evict them once you get that money. This is not the first tenant that has happened with. We got documentation. I got to get an okay from the state to go, because a federal investigation really needs to be done. It's too much money involved. It's too many tenants. And then while we were there on the property doing a live streaming it, because the media had come out, Channel 24 had come out and actually did the story, but his boss shut it down. They wouldn't let them air it, or wouldn't let them air the story. But something has to be done, because this particular property, and I can't speak on it right now because I don't have proof, but this particular property, I do know we have documentation that is too many tenants saying the same thing about this money. And the tenants are suffering, and the housing authority is allowing it to happen. And so when you got,
That's placing them in a hardship.
We're there on the property, and then we get another tenant is telling me to come and talk to them. And here she presented her paperwork with me. The same thing that just happened to her. She been saying, you owe money. We know you paid it, but we can't find it. And so we need for you to sign to pay it back. And then we find it, we'll give you the money back.
Wow.
And then they're saying, she said, I didn't even supposed to be paying rent. At one time I was being charged money. I'm on Section 8 and I ain't even supposed to be paying. And they had me paying, I don't have to get people monies back where they've been overcharging them money. They on Section 8, they're supposed to be maybe paying $80, and they charging them $105. Just imagine if you charging everybody $15 extra every month.
Right.
And nobody don't think nothing is wrong with that. Nobody don't see that's been issue. It needs to be a federal investigation. HUD has to get involved. There needs to be a federal investigation into this money. Because you find the money, you're gonna.
Oh yeah, That's usually.
And so this is something very serious. You know, I think if I'm just waiting on the state to give me the okay.
Because
Something
it's
has to be
too many
done.
people with
It's
the
too many
same
people
issue.
saying the same
Yeah.
thing, and I could see one or two people, but you got so many people. You got so many people. You have people that have come to me and say, Miss Westbrook, I got some texts on my phone. You know that she sent me a notice out saying I need to pay. I owe $600. I owe $300, and if I don't pay it, I gotta be out by that. And then when I took my receipt and showed her that I had paid it, then she said, "Oh, don't worry about it." But how did you come? Did you do that to see if they would actually just pay it like this girl did last week when she said she was gonna be evicted by September 9th and she didn't pay the $250? She went right on up there and paid it again. Some people are actually just paying it or they're moving because they can't pay it,
Wow.
depending on how much money is. We got money orders being traced right now. Well, people from April to October, somebody hadn't paid their rent, and then you come back and you come in December and say, well, look, you know, you hadn't paid rent from April to now, and you got to pay this money that we gonna file an eviction. So here we are now. We sent money trying to trace money. Oh, here it is, October, September. We paid for these money off in March, but again, she evicted her, got her to sign a new lease, knowing this girl is evicted, not even on the property, to get the Georgia rental system money,
Wow.
and the courts are allowing it to happen.
And so the landlords are so in tune to getting that rental assistance money that they're fudging.
Breaking the law, because that's exactly what they're
Right.
doing.
Right.
It's fraud. That's exactly
Right.
what it is. And they have to be called out on it because you're putting these tenants at hardship. And this young lady with the special needs child, she really needs an attorney. Because first of all, she was wrongfully evicted
Right.
because her rent is paid. In June, May, she didn't even give her credit for paying rent. She said she didn't pay her rent. I have her money order receipts for the month of May. She have her receipts.
And they've seen those and still.
She did not give her credit for paying rent.
Wow. Yeah, that's some obvious. That's pretty obvious fraud.
So what I'm just saying, and the housing authority can't say they don't know about it because I've sent emails. I've requested that she even be removed. You can't continue to have these clients. Money is just too hard to come by to keep having to pay our money. We got this girl bank statements, Mr. Dumas, showing that money is coming out her account. We don't know what it's for. We just know it's at a Kroger, the same Kroger every month,
Wow.
for the same amount of money. She may buy a few items extra, maybe a few items, maybe. But you're talking about the same amount of money every month from April to October.
Wow. We've got a caller. Somebody's calling in.
Okay.
Go ahead, caller.
Yes. How y'all doing today?
All right, how you
Great, and
doing?
I would like to make a comment, if I may, about rentals. It's sad the way we rentals are getting treated like we don't have no kind of rights. And we go back to the violence. A lot of this violence is going on. People are not mad all the time at the people that they shoot or kill. They are angry by other things a whole lot of times.
Wow.
And if you don't have some guard on your side nowadays, the way some of us are getting treated, we can't make a complaint unless they gonna put you out.
Right.
They already know they're not gonna fix it. Then time you go to complain and asking them in a nice way to fix it, next thing you know, you're being evicted for little simple things.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, we got to get something else in order, this violence to stop, because it's not all the time the way we see it. We got a lot of young folks mad the way their parents get treated by renting houses and stuff, and I know because I talk to people, and I
Right.
try to counsel. Well, not counsel, but I talk. People bring their young people to me, and I talk with them, and try to set them straight. But like I say, if you don't have some God on your side nowadays and time, the way we renters get cheated, and they said when they passed that penny tax, that was going to help the homeowners uh, decrease their tax. Well, the renters, what we gonna get? We pay the extra penny. So
Right.
that's the comment I want.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
And
you.
we appreciate you for calling. We appreciate you calling in. And you're so right. Oh, I do see that a lot. We see that a lot where
Yes,
tenants
ma'am.
when they do ask for repairs to be done, and especially when they know their rights, then a lot of times they're retaliated against. And she's so right. It happens all the time, but it shouldn't happen, because and then you go into the courts, and then the courts protect these landlords. And so you have a right. If you have repair, you're paying your rent, and you have repairs that needs to be done, you're doing the right thing by requesting for those repairs to be done. But you got these landlords that do not want to fix anything, and they want to continue to collect the rent. But what we got to start, we got code enforcement is back up and running now. We need to start getting code enforcement involved with these property managers, because it's not right to collect these tenants' money and then they can't even get simple repairs done.
Exactly.
And she's absolutely right.
And then we've seen some of the horrific photos on some of the homes where mold
Right.
and those kind of things are, starting to creep up in the house.
Well,
simply
something on the
because-
news here a while back saying that when the property manager's problem, it could come from, but it's the way the homes are built. If you don't have any ventilation
right,
in these places, then mold is going to build up, especially during the summertime. You are going to have a lot of mold, because mold attracts moisture.
right,
And so, it's not the tenant's fault either, that mold is the way that the material and the way that they have these houses and apartments built with no ventilation. And so, we got to do better. Our courts, I see it too often. And it's something that we got to start monitoring, Mr. Dumas. I'm going to be retiring the end of the year. I've already
all
got my
right.
paperwork in process. And so look out, courts, because I'm going to be there.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. The caller brought up a very interesting point, because I've sometimes thought about this but never mentioned it. But yes, she's right. A lot of these shootings that we're experiencing comes from people being angry about certain situations that they find themselves in.
And you know what? That's a good point. And
Very
a lot
good
of
point.
times, with these break-ins and stuff like we was talking about in people's cars and stuff, it may not have, it may stuff that's going on that they're angry with the property managers,
Right.
or with the way stuff is being done, and they're causing trouble. Never thought about it. I didn't think about it. Did not think about what she just said.
Yeah, that's a very interesting angle.
It
And I
is.
think that needs to be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be talked about, because, like she mentioned, a lot of times when children see their parents going through certain things,
That's right.
then they retaliate and take it in their hands,
Right.
their own hands. So that's a very, very valid
And we
point.
we thank you for calling in. Didn't think about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, we're asking for you all to join the NACP. We do a lot of work behind the scenes. We need your membership, not just your membership. We need you to join us and to work along with us. We have a lot of work to do: housing, education, our criminal justice system, our voting, economic empowerment. We have our youth chapter that we need help with. So it's only $30 a year to join. We're asking for you to join and join the fight, because when we fight, we win.
Absolutely. And there's always room. We always have room in the end. So don't ever feel that the organization has enough members. We're taking in members every day, and so we'd love to have you to be a part of our team.
And this is the oldest organization. We got to educate our young people. A lot of young people still don't know what the NACP is, and I think that I had asked about going to school, and I think that I need to see if we can get, because we got to educate people. Need to know who the NACP is.
Absolutely. So we may have to start touring
Yeah.
some of the schools. Well, thank you for
for
joining us, and we look forward to you joining us on next week. And we hope that the information we've given you, you take it to heart and do what you can in your community, make it safe. And if you see something, say something.
That's right.
So until next time, I'm Willie Dumas along with Gwendolyn Westbrooks. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM, W300EB, Macon, and WDDO 980 AM, Perry.